Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, February 2nd, 2026. I'll call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. And before we proceed with this afternoon's agenda, I would like to take a moment on behalf of council, administration, and the entire town of Coaldale to recognize and congratulate our Chief Administrative Officer, Kaylin Hastings, on receiving a truly well-deserved honor. Kaylin has been recognized through the 2025 Dedicated Chief Administrative Officer Award and Alberta Municipalities and Society of Local Government Managers Award that celebrates long-serving CEOs who demonstrate outstanding leadership, integrity, and commitment to municipal governance. This recognition is not simply about the years of service, it reflects the impact of that service. Kaylin's leadership is felt across every part of our organization. He has built a strong and stable administrative team, and he has earned deep respect from staff through collaboration, clear communication, and a genuine commitment to professional growth. He has also earned the trust of council through steady, evidence-based advice and consistent focus on transparency and accountability. His leadership helps ensure that council's priorities are carried forward with clarity and professionalism. Under Kaylin's direction, Coaldale has experienced one of the most ambitious periods of growth and capital development in our history, from major infrastructure investments to recreation facilities, downtown revitalization, and long-term planning that continues to position our community for success. What stands out most, however, is Kaylin's integrity and his ability to lead quietly but effectively. He empowers others, supports staff, and always keeps the community at the center of the work. Kaylin, this award reflects what we already know in Coaldale, that your dedication, professionalism, and steady leadership have made a lasting difference in this municipality. Congratulations, and thank you for everything you do for our town.
Thank you.
So, Kaylin, I'm going to get you to come up here to the center, please. We're going to present you with your award. Can I get all the council to come? Welcome back to our regular council meeting for Monday, February 2nd, 2026. First item on the agenda item 1.1, the land acknowledgement. The town of Coaldale acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot peoples of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot peoples past, present, and future while recognizing their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The town of Coaldale is also home to the Métis District 1 foothills. Agenda item 1.2, conflict of interest declaration, pecuniary and non-pecuniary. Are there any in the room this afternoon? None declared. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 2.1, acceptance of the agenda. I have one addition, and that is 7.5. And that's regarding bylaw 929-P-02-26 regarding a area structure plan amendment. Any other additions, deletions? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council adopt a regular council meeting agenda for February 2nd, 2026 as amended? Councillor Pickering makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that vote is carried. Moving on to agenda item 3.1, adoption of the previous minutes. We have the regular council meeting minutes from December 15th, 2025. Any errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council approve the December 15th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes as presented? Councillor Reis makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that vote is carried. Moving on to agenda item 3.2, regular council meeting minutes from January 12th, 2026. Were there any errors or omissions in those minutes? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council approve the January 12th, 2026 regular council meeting minutes as presented? Deputy Mayor Beekman makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that vote is carried. Moving on to agenda item 3.3, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes from January 26, 2026. Were there any errors or omissions in those meeting minutes? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council approve the January 26, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes? Councillor Avery makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that vote is carried. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7.1 under bylaws and policies. We have our Director of Corporate and Strategic Initiatives, Spencer Croil, presenting on a land use bylaw amendment 927-P-02-26 regarding first reading. Spencer, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to you and Council. I wonder if we could get up the current land use map on the screen. This, as you can tell by the title of the item, is a application for a rezoning for a property that's along 18th Avenue, 17th, 13th, 18th Avenue, just north of the tracks here in town. And for context, it would be directly east of the car wash that has recently been constructed in that part of town. So once we have the current land use map up, I can provide a little bit more context for the application. Okay, so we can see the subject property here currently zoned Industry I. And for context or additional context, it's in an area that you might call transitional in terms of the variety of land uses around it. So directly west is commercial C1 land use, and then purple itself, or sorry, that's C2 actually, highway commercial. And then all of the purple with the subject property heading east is an industry. There's some residential lots directly north, some fragmented industrial and residential lots to the northeast, and some industrial lots to the south. So it's an area that doesn't have clear direction from the benefit of the municipal development plan, an area structure plan, or any other higher level planning documents. This has been brought forward by the applicant for consideration of a different type of future development than what the industry district allows. And it's anticipated that should council wish to pass the bylaw for first reading, a public hearing can be held on February 23rd at 5 p.m. after the required advertising notification period has been held. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you. I'll open it up to members of council. Any questions, comments? Councillor Avery.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Spencer. Just a question. So with that strip, is there a chance we're going to end up with commercial, industrial? Like, is this something we should be looking at the whole strip for rezoning, or is it better to look at one lot specifically at a time?
Certainly, through the chair to Councillor Avery, that's a wonderful question. And that kind of speaks to the benefit of something like a small scale area structure plan or some kind of guidance beyond spot zoning as we're looking at right now. However, in the absence of anything else that tells us what we should or shouldn't do, we just rely on the principles of what good planning might represent. And in this particular case, in a transitional area, each application, for lack of any other guidance, can be dealt with on its own merits at this point. If council wish to direct staff to look at a more comprehensive understanding of what this should look like into the future, that's definitely something we could look at.
Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor, and through to Spencer, appreciate you bringing this forward. And just a follow up on Councillor Avery's query, I do support the application as it's coming forward. Plus, the fact that if there's no immediate consideration to take place for a development, that this might be an opportune time for you to look at an area structure plan or some kind of an area development for that area, so that has some more continuity, as Councillor Avery is speaking to.
So just for clarification then, Spencer, if you could explain one more time, based on Councillor Avery's comment, if there's a question that you want from us to move forward on something.
Certainly. Recognizing the questions that have come forward on what else could occur here in terms of higher level planning. If council wished, we could look at something more comprehensive than spot zoning, which is the exercise we're looking at now. It may not have to be a full-blown area structure plan, but it would be something that would involve engaging with the property owners in that area and looking at what types of land uses council and those property owners in good planning practice might consider as a good vision for the next 10, 20, 30 years of growth, or however long it takes to fill that area of the community in.
So is it safe to say you recognize the intent, or is there something I need to add to the motion?
That's a great question, Mayor. I don't know that I have a good answer for it.
I'll let our CAO jump in.
I think it's probably easier just to approve first reading as a standalone, and then if council wants to make an additional exploratory resolution, then we can deal with that separately. But I think standalone would probably be fine.
So based on the commentary, I think between Cameron and Spencer, they recognize the intent of the question. So do we even need a motion?
I don't think so. The other important variable would be discussion with some of the landowners along there to see what they're up to, rather than doing it to them. Maybe starting with some consultation with neighboring property owners, knowing that this can always make its way onto the agenda subsequently once we have those discussions, because widening the types of uses that can occur along that transitional area, I think, is a good thing from an ECDEV perspective, but I don't know that you need a specific motion at that exploratory stage.
Councillor Avery, you're okay with that? Okay, thank you. So then I'm looking for someone to make a motion that council provide first reading of Land Use Bylaw Amendment 927-P-02-26 as presented. Councillor Pickering makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that vote is carried. Moving on to agenda item 7.2. Again, we have Spencer presenting on road closure bylaw 913-P-02-25 regarding second and third reading. Spencer, whenever you're ready.
Thank you again, Mayor. This one is perhaps a little more straightforward than the previous bylaw. This represents a step in the process of closing a portion of undeveloped road allowance that sat between two industrial properties in our new industrial area. And this is a step in the process in the sense that on September 15th, first reading was granted to this application. A public hearing was held. The Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors has signed off on the bylaw, allowing for us to proceed with second and third reading and actually formally close the road and then have it incorporated into the adjacent properties.
Thank you. I'll open up to members of council. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council provides second reading of road closure bylaw 913-P-02-25? Councillor Chapman makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. Now I'm looking for someone to make a motion that council provide third and final reading of road closure bylaw 913-P-02-25. Deputy Mayor Beekman. I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Spencer. Moving on to agenda item 7.3, the utility rate bylaw 928-C-02-26 regarding all three readings. We have our Senior Manager of Capital Finance, Tim Koba, presenting. Tim, whenever you're ready.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. So the purpose of the proposed utility rate bylaw 928C-02-26 is to reflect the utility rate increases that were passed on by the City of Lethbridge that were made effective January 1st, 2026. The consumption rates charged to the regional customers, which includes the town of Coaldale, were increased, and the 2026 utility rates that were previously approved in 2024 were needed to be adjusted to reflect the increase. With that, this bylaw was brought to council at the January 26th Committee of the Whole meeting, where council discussed and decided that rather than making the effective rate increase effective as of January 1st, we would provide enough notice to our customers and make the adjustments to the consumption rates effective as of April 1st, 2026. The following rates are impacted by this increase. It's the domestic water consumption, commercial water consumption, bulk water rates, and bulk sewer rates. In addition to the rate adjustments, there are some minor administrative changes to add definitions and removing the prior year rates from the current bylaw. The decision options tonight are that council approve the 2026 utility rate bylaw as presented, or council request additional information for clarification from administration.
Thank you. And just before I open it up to members of council, I'm just going to ask our CAO if he could give some background as to why we find ourselves in this predicament.
Thank you, Mayor, through to Council. In discussing the matter with the administration of the City of Lethbridge, they had done an analysis on what it cost them to create the water and they looked at what they were charging the regional customers, and they concluded that they needed to increase the rate in order to not subsidize the cost of the water for customers outside the city, including the commission, of which Coaldale is a part. They also looked at what the cost of water was in other municipalities to provide a bit of a contextual analysis, and that indicated that the water that they were charging us on a per cubic meter basis to the commission was significantly lower than what other places like Calgary, Red Deer, Edmonton were creating water for. And so this was an ongoing discussion over the summer of 2025, and they had given initial notice that the rates would be increasing on September 1st in order to bridge the gap of what it cost to treat the water versus what they were charging us. And after having discussions with them through the commission, they had pushed the effective date to January 1st. So this is one of those issues that they caught after a couple years of time, as opposed to incrementally raising it on a year-by-year basis. So the commission has not received a significant increase from the city for the past couple of years. And upon further analysis, they are adjusting the rate this year in order to catch up for the lack of incremental increases in prior years. We don't anticipate this being a year-over-year issue. This is a big jump to catch up for years prior. And this is something that's been flagged for additional dialogue going forward so that we don't have any significant rate hikes like this for our residents going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Avery.
Thank you, Mayor. And my question is for Tim. So with the water increase, I believe you said it would be approximately $10 per month per utility bill. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Avery, that is correct. We ran a few different scenarios, one comparing the proposed rate change in front of you to take effect April 1st, comparing that to the 2025 rates, and then also comparing them to the 2026 rates that were already approved. And the average household consumes about 10 cubic meters a month. And the change from 2026 to 2025 is roughly $10, $9.67 a month.
Okay. And then you also mentioned the sewer was going up, and that's approximately $5 a month. Is that what it would work?
That's the bulk sewer water rate. We don't, that source of revenue is not a very significant, we don't have it's not a significant source of revenue. I believe it was less than $5,000 last year. So, but yes, the bulk water rates will be changing from $4.45 to $4.75.
And then a question for our CAO. For our bi-weekly garbage pickup, recycling, and composting, I know we looked at it a few years ago, and we're still doing weekly recycling pickup. Is that something we can readdress, and is it something that we truly need as a weekly recycling pickup? As you know, I notice when I drive around in my neighborhood on the day of recycling, there's a lot of bins that are not put out on a weekly basis. So I think it could be a cost savings in the future, especially when we go back into contract negotiation.
Councillor Chapman and then Councillor Reis.
Thank you, Mayor. And through to Tim, if I may, just a question regarding the flat rate or the billing rate. It won't change. It's just the actual water consumption that's being that's going to be adjusted.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Chapman. Yes, the only changes are highlighted in the new proposed bylaw. And so the fixed rates, we are not adjusting at all from what was previously approved.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Reis.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Through to Tim. Can you remind me how much it's going to cost the town for the next 4 months while we let the residents get used to this increase, please?
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Reis. The average annual consumption for the town is approximately just under 1 million cubes a year. And so based on that, if we take the rate, it would be approximately $15,000 if we postpone the rate change from January 1st to April 1st.
Thank you.
Councillor Pickering.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Through to our CAO. So, Kaylin, just to clarify, so our consumers know this, we will be paying the same rate for water as the Lefferts residents? Like,
Through the councillor, or through the chair to Councillor Pecuniary and council, we'll be paying the same rate as their industrial customers, because we would be considered one of the big bulk buyers. And so we would be paying the same as the other bulk buyers in that commercial industrial classification, including, for example, Cavendish. What they charge their individual residents, like I think that's on a different schedule than what we'll be charging our individual residents.
okay, thank you.
And if I may, I just haven't got back to Councillor Avery's question about recycling. So could I do the 2-for-1 and just circle back on that? The recycling, that's an interesting one, because no longer are we in charge of the cost associated with the pickup for recyclables. So Alberta has moved to what they call an extended producer responsibility, the EPR, where a third party now bears the cost for the recyclables. The manufacturing sector is picking up the cost. And so I'd have to check with our director of operations about whether there'd be any savings for us at all, given that we don't pay the bill any longer for that stream of service.
Thank you. I'll open up one last time to members of council. Questions, concerns? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council provides first reading of utility rate bylaw 928-C-02-26? Councillor Pickering makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. That motion is carried with Councillor Avery voting against. Moving on to second reading, would someone care to sponsor that resolution? Councillor Chapman, I'll call for the vote. And that motion is carried as well, again with Councillor Avery voting against. Now I need someone to sponsor unanimous consent to hold all three readings in one meeting for the utility rate bylaw 928-C-02-26. Councillor Saylor makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. That motion is carried. Now moving on to third and final reading of utility rate bylaw 928-C-02-26. Who cares to sponsor that one? Councillor Chapman, I'll call for the vote. That motion is carried. Again, Councillor Avery voted against. Thank you, Tim. Moving on to agenda item 7.4, Land Use Bylaw Amendment 930-P-02-26 regarding rezoning Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 251-1030 from residential R1A to residential multi-unit R2. This is regarding first reading, and we have our Director of Growth and Investment, Cameron Mills, presenting. Cam, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Mayor Van Rijn. For clarity's sake, this item as well as the next item both speak fundamentally to two sides of the same issue. So bylaw 930 is for the rezoning proposed rezoning of a single lot within the South Coaldale revised area structure plan, so the new Canal Crossings neighborhood. And bylaw 930 speaks to the rezoning of that lot, which would be applicable should that area structure plan amendment be passed upon third reading. So if it's all right with council, I'd like to take the opportunity maybe to just speak to both issues individually, and we can entertain motions for each individual bylaw following that discussion, if that's acceptable.
We can do that. Any questions on this one before I ask for someone to provide first reading of Land Use Bylaw Amendment 930-P-02-26?
I can say a few words about the bylaw first before we.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So with respect to the change, the proposed change, I'll speak to the area structure plan first. So the proposed change to the area structure plan has to do with, again, this single individual lot within the Canal Crossing subdivision. So as we'll recall, within the area structure plan, which was passed in 2021, the Canal Crossings neighborhood in the south of Coaldale is south of the canal located along the newly constructed 17th Street. And this neighborhood consists of a mix of single-family residential and multifamily residential developments with higher density located to the north along the bank of the canal and moving towards the single-family density or the lower density the further south you go within the subdivision area. This particular lot is within that northernmost highest density section, and it is the entrance lot within the Canal Crossing subdivision. So it's located within the north of the area structure plan, bordering 17th Street. The area structure plan calls for that lot to provide for seniors housing, which would fundamentally be multifamily in nature, but would be geared specifically towards the housing of seniors. The developer has been attempting to market the lot for those purposes during that time. There's been some interest, and in fact, I have received some phone calls and directed them the developer's way, but the developers found that there isn't interest in developing the lot in line with the realities of the market. And so the developer has interest from another party who wants to seek sort of a townhouse style development within the lot, and we let them know that in order for that to happen, an amendment to the area structure plan and rezoning would need to occur first, and that is the purpose of these bylaws in combination. From a purely technical perspective, there's not, from administration's perspective, not a massive difference in intensity between what the developer is proposing and what would ultimately come from a seniors housing complex. So that's with respect to things like traffic or sewer usage or things like that. That doesn't mean that there isn't a difference, simply that there isn't much from that technical perspective. So what administration would propose is that following first reading for both of these bylaws, we prepare for a public hearing to consider both of them. And one of the things administration would like to do at that public hearing is have a broader conversation at that time about seniors housing. It's an issue that we've talked about with council periodically over the past couple of years. And I think we've definitely learned some things since 2021, since this area structure plan was approved, and we've also seen some changes in town. So we'll provide some of that general information as part of that public hearing, both for council, both as a refresher for council and also for the general public who might be interested in understanding what the seniors housing picture is within Coaldale. I'll have an opportunity to consider that, as well as sort of the typical planning considerations prior to making a decision on these bylaws. So that is our intention. We'll do that at the public hearing at that time.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, and through to Cam. Thank you so much for your update on this. I will support the rezoning. However, I'm just curious as to whether the developer would possibly adjust their model and construction to suit other people rather than seniors, if that were the case. I think that the popularity of a certain model or style of construction might dissuade seniors from locating or purchasing property right there.
Thank you. Yeah, that is potentially the case. We'll provide some mock-ups of what it is that the developer is proposing, and the intention of the amendment to the area structure plan is not to allow for the necessarily the full-scale R2 zoning, which would allow for potentially any type of development. And we're gonna make the text amendments to the area structure plan is going to fundamentally call for in line for what is being proposed, so that we have some certainty if in fact this change is going to be approved. We'll be able to take a look at the specifics of that then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council provide first reading of Land Use Bylaw Amendment 930-P-02-26 as presented? Councillor Chapman, I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. Moving on to agenda item 7.5. Again, we have our Director of Growth and Investment, Cameron Mills, presenting on Area Structure Plan Bylaw Amendment 929-P-02-26 regarding Area Structure Plan Amendment to South Coaldale Seniors Housing to Multifamily Housing, and again regarding first reading. Cam?
Thank you very much. So again, this speaks to that same issue. This particular bylaw now speaks to the area structure plan amendment. These bylaws fundamentally go hand in hand. So I'd have no additional comments.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions or comments? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council provide first reading of Area Structure Plan Bylaw Amendment 929-P-02-26 as presented? Councillor Reis makes that motion. I'll call for the vote.
Apologies, this will have to be a hand vote. The system seems to have declined the...
Okay, thank you. We'll call for a manual vote. All those in favor of Councillor Reis's motion? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to new business, agenda item 8.1, the Coaldale Library Board, Chinook Arch Library Board, clarification of council appointment term, and we have our Municipal Clerk, Lana Antony, presenting.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item is more particularly a housekeeping item. The Coaldale Library has informed us that the Library Act determines council terms representation as 3 years in comparison to the 4-year term that council is appointed. So at the organizational meeting in October, Deputy Mayor Jason Beekman was appointed to the Coaldale Public Library Board and the Chinook Library Board, both which are recognized by the Library Act, and he was appointed for a 4-year term, and they have requested that we change it to that council pass a motion to reflect a 3-year term as a housekeeping item. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you. Councillor Avery, then Councillor Chapman, and then Deputy Mayor Beekman.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Lana. I know we looked at this once before, and somebody was supposed to start lobbying government to update their acts, because it was the government that changed it from a 3-year council term to a 4-year council term back in 2013, I believe. So government needs to get their acts together to update their acts to coincide with council appointments. So is it something that we should do as council, or is it something administration needs to do, or Deputy Mayor Beekman being our representative on the library board?
Through to the chair, to Councillor Avery, thank you for the question. That's a very valid point. And yes, as a long time issue, I'm happy to investigate those 3 scenarios on your behalf, on council's behalf.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Beekman.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Looking at the timeline on there, just because I'm a little confused, with it being the 3-year term, that 3-year term that we have in the staff report brings us to October of 2026 or 2029. Ultimately, that is just shy of a 4-year term. Is the 3-year term just fall into the calendar year of 2029?
That date is reflective of the organizational meeting, which would happen in October. I should have added also, like, each year council participation on any committees and boards is reviewed to see if it aligns with council's scheduling and if there's any conflicts at that time. So if there was a change to be made, it could be made at that time. At the end of the 3-year term that the Library Act is looking for, there would still be another appointment at that time, whether it be for 1 year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, we have this split into 2 separate motions. The first one is that Council appoint Deputy Mayor Jason Beekman to the Coaldale Library Board for a 3-year term ending October 21st, 2029. Who cares to sponsor that? Councillor Chapman, I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. Now I'm looking for someone to sponsor a motion that Council appoint Deputy Mayor Jason Beekman to the Chinook Arch Library Board for a 3-year term ending October 21st, 2029. Who cares to make that one? Councillor Pickering, I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. Thank you, Lana. Moving on to agenda item 8.2, subdivision approval time extension request. And this is regarding SUB 2024-006. And again, we have our Director of Corporate and Strategic Initiatives, Spencer Croil, presenting. Spencer, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So in January of 2025, the Municipal Planning Commission, being our subdivision approving authority, would have approved Subdivision 2024-006. At that time, the lot was created with a size and orientation, as we can see in the package attached to this evening's item. There was some discussion and some engineering that had to be done to ensure that there's a stormwater management plan that was able to accommodate future development on that lot as oriented and as it's in its current shape and size. And that took us to the 1-year time period that we have as per the MGA to go from initial approval to final endorsement and registration of a subdivision application such as this. So given that we've run out of time, this is appearing before council again as per the MGA. You have to decide on whether or not the application can be given a one-time extension to allow for the finalization and registration of the lot, or if other direction may be given. So the question before council this evening is if you'd consider the extension of subdivision approval of 2024-006 for a one-time extension for a 1-year time period so that we can finalize the lot and get it registered with land titles.
Thank you. I'll open up to members of council. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council approve a one-time extension of subdivision 2024-006 for a period of 1 year to allow for the finalization and registration of the subdivision? Deputy Mayor Beekman makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. That vote is passed with Councillor Reis voting against. Moving on to agenda item 10.1 under council and committee reports. We have Councillor Reis presenting on the Coaldale Chamber of Commerce. Whenever you're ready, Councillor Reis.
Thank you, Mayor Van Rijn. Good evening, Council. My report is regarding my first Chamber of Commerce meeting since being appointed to this committee. It was my pleasure to share with the committee that Town Council is comprised completely of incumbents and that I've been appointed as the council representative for the Chamber. The Coaldale Chamber of Commerce Directive is working with businesses for business, empowering community growth by supporting local business, fostering opportunities through advocacy, resources, and activities. They have a wide array of functions, partnerships, and support systems in place for businesses, such as advocacy, networking, business resources, exclusive discounts with some of Canada's top brands, and a chamber plan with access to health benefits for small and large businesses. There is a wide range of business supports from advisors who know rural businesses, including free business advice and consulting. If a more thorough resource is needed, Community Futures may be a recommendation which offers additional business coaching, business plan help, training programs, and technical assistance. Coaldale Chamber of Commerce also advocates for many of the organizations that help Coaldale thrive. Organizations such as the Coaldale Community Wellness Association, Kinsman and Connect Club of Coaldale, Gem of the West Society, Paws Pet and Animal Wellness, Coaldale Public Library, County of Lethbridge Community Learning Council, and the Town of Coaldale are just a few of the societies and groups that people can get involved with to enhance community well-being. Exploring specific opportunities within the Chamber, there are additional avenues such as becoming a board member or sitting on one of the 6 committees. These committees consist of Membership Committee, which oversees the Chamber membership and initiate recruitment, Political Advocacy Committee, which communicates with provincial and federal governments, Community Committee, which communicates with local residents and other non-chamber organizations, Events Committee, which oversees and supervises events such as the Awards Appreciation Banquet, which is coming up this weekend, and the Communications Committee, which supervises Coaldale Chamber communication. Engagement opportunities such as the B2B lunches provides an environment for networking, allowing business members to meet with and expand on their business contacts, helping businesses grow. A council rep from the town of Coaldale relates this information relevant to business, which that would be me. I provided that committee with a brief overview of some of town highlights, including 2 events the council was recently a part of, including the meet and greet and coffee with the cop. I shared that New Cold's 2.7 rail spur is now fully operational, and the benefits that this piece of infrastructure will bring our town and region's economy and job creation. I shared the construction of the West Coaldale Sanitary Trunk Line main extension is now complete. This is relevant to the Chamber, as once this work is fully completed, the connectivity between Highway 3 and the 845 using a ring road will help enhance businesses. And finally, I shared the update on the new potable water reservoir and pump station nearing completion, and that it will be up and running in the coming weeks. This is an important piece of information to share with the Chamber of Commerce, as water availability and limitations do affect all industries. And at that very same meeting, an update was provided from the link pathway, noting that while no significant new information is available, the committee did learn that they did secure funding for the underground pathway, which is going to go under Highway 512, and this critical piece of development. With this critical piece of development secured and construction set to begin this spring, it significantly increases the completion of the pathway between Coaldale and the Tim Hortons on 43rd. So, as many are aware, Phase 1 is complete, Phase 2 has been funded, and Phase 3 is partially funded. The next steps will include to continue funding and in a social infrastructure build-out for 2026 and an educational infrastructure build-out for 2026 as well. And noteworthy is that the link pathway is also looking to include a wetland feature for along the trail, and it will become a nice spot for people to stop and enjoy nature, take a break, and the additional goal of it becoming a celebration to host celebrational events and weddings. In order to do so, they are looking to secure a piece of land, sponsorships, and or more donations. The cost of the wetland is $150,000, and there are still sponsorship items available, such as a donor brick, benches, trees, boulevards, kilometer markers, 1 meter of pathway are just a few of the options. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Reis. I'll open up any questions, comments. Seeing none, could I get someone to make a motion that council receive the Coaldale Chamber of Commerce verbal report as information? Councillor Reis makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 12.1 under information items, we have the Coaldale Library Board meeting minutes from November 18th, 2025. Any questions, comments on those minutes? Seeing none, could I get someone to entertain making a motion that council receive the Coaldale Library Board meeting minutes from November 18th, 2025 as information? Deputy Mayor Beekman makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. That concludes the open portion of the meeting. I will require a motion at 5:55 p.m. for council to move into closed session in accordance with section 197-4-B of the Municipal Government Act to discuss matters exempt from disclosure for item 13.1, subject to section 19, disclosure harmful to the business interests of a third party. Item 13.2, subject to section 28, local public body confidences, and section 29, advice from officials. Who cares to make that motion? Councillor Saylor makes that motion. I'll call for the vote. And that is carried. We will take a 10-minute break.